All right, let's dive into a story that'll make you wonder what's really out there. The Phoenix Lights, back in '97. Remember that?
Yeah.
Whole bunch of people across Arizona and Nevada saw something truly bizarre up in the sky.
Yeah, and it's more than just some grainy pictures, right? We're talking tons of eyewitness accounts, official statements, you name it, and even reports of similar things happening later on. Makes you think, doesn't it? What's really going on out there?
So what exactly happened on March 13th, 1997? Give us the rundown.
Well, it all kicked off in Henderson, Nevada. Just before 8 p.m., someone reported this massive V-shaped thing flying southeast. Then, boom, not even 15 minutes later, a former police officer in Paulden, Arizona, sees a bunch of reddish-orange lights vanish over the horizon.
Okay, so already a pretty wide area, huh? Any more sightings after that?
Oh, absolutely. Reports started flooding in from all over Arizona. I mean, a 300-mile stretch over 3 hours. It wasn't just a quick blip on the radar.
Wow, it's a lot of people seeing something strange. Any accounts that really stick out from that night?
One that always gets me is the Tim Lee family's story. They were out near Phoenix, saw 5 separate lights in an arc. Then, as those lights got closer, guess what? They formed that V shape. They described this huge, silent, square thing with 5 lights on it, hovering low, moving slow, and they watched it for a solid 10 minutes. Not just a glance, a good, long look.
10 minutes. That's long enough to make you question everything you thought you knew.
You got it. Then, later that night, around 10 p.m., things really went wild in Phoenix itself. Loads of people reporting a line of bright lights just hanging there in the sky. Some said they saw them slowly coming down. This is when the photos and videos started popping up, and that's what really made this whole thing explode.
So we've got a ton of people seeing something out of the ordinary. What are the most common explanations for what they actually saw?
Well, the most popular one is Operation Snowbird. It was this huge training program the Air National Guard was running back then. Turns out 2 groups of A-10 aircraft were flying in the area that night.
Ah, so military planes. Could that explain what people saw?
It's possible. The first group was flying in formation, but with steady lights, not the blinking kind you see on commercial planes. From the ground, that formation could easily look like the flying triangle everyone was talking about.
Makes sense. But what about those hovering lights?
That's where the second group of A-10s comes in. They were doing flare drops. Now, flares fall slowly, they burn for a while, and because of the parachutes, they create this kind of balloon effect.
So dropping flares over the mountains, that could explain the appearing and disappearing lights.
Exactly. The terrain around Phoenix, especially those Sierra Estrella Mountains, could have made the flares look like they were blinking out as they went behind the peaks.
So mystery solved, right? Just military exercises.
Well, not so fast. Even with these explanations, a lot of people, and I mean credible witnesses, still say they saw something totally different. Pilots, law enforcement officers, even the governor of Arizona at the time.
Wait, the governor? Tell me more about that.
Fife Symington. His account is one of the most interesting parts of this whole thing. At first, he kind of joked about it, even had someone dress up like an alien for a press conference, but
Sounds like he wasn't laughing for long.
nope. Years later, Symington completely changed his story. Said he saw something himself that night that he just couldn't explain. He even called it otherworldly.
Wow. A pilot, the governor, saying he saw something truly unexplainable. That's pretty significant.
And get this. Remember those A-10s supposedly dropping flares? Well, Symington says what he saw was way bigger than any A-10. Bigger than any aircraft he'd ever seen.
So even with the military explanation, the governor's account really throws a wrench in things. What are we supposed to make of all this?
It really shows you how complicated this whole thing is. You have the military aircraft, the flare seems plausible, but then you got folks like Governor Symington right in the thick of it saying, nope, that wasn't it at all.
It's like trying to fit puzzle pieces together, and some of them just don't match up. Are there more pieces to add to this puzzle? You mentioned sightings even after 1997.
You're right. The Phoenix Heights weren't a one-night wonder. 2007, 2008, more reports of strange lights over Phoenix.
More lights. Any explanation for those?
The 2007 lights, guess what? Military flares again. F-16s this time. Training at Luke Air Force Base.
Okay, so more military stuff. Not too surprising, I guess. But what about 2008? Same story.
Oh, that one's a real head-scratcher. Turned out to be some guy, just a regular civilian, who thought it'd be fun to tie flares to helium balloons and let them loose from his backyard.
Seriously. Helium balloons.
Yep. Sometimes the simplest answer is the right one, even when things seem totally bizarre.
I guess that proves not every light in the sky is aliens. But still, why would someone do that? What was he thinking?
Who knows, maybe he wanted to stir up some mystery, or maybe those Phoenix Lights stories got to him. Whatever his reason, it shows how easy it is to get the wrong idea, how even ordinary things can turn into something extraordinary in people's minds.
Good point. We should be skeptical, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we shouldn't just ignore what people say they saw, especially when it's people we trust.
Exactly. It's a tough balance. Open mind, critical thinking, that's the key. That's what makes these mysteries so interesting. They make us question what we think we know, look at things from different angles.
So where does that leave us with the Phoenix Lights? Eyewitness accounts, the governor's story, the military explanations, then these later events that turned out to be, well, less mysterious. What are we supposed to believe?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? I don't think there's one clear-cut answer. The Phoenix Lights, they're one of those mysteries that keeps people talking, keeps them wondering.
Feels like there are still so many unanswered questions. What would it take to really get to the bottom of this? What kind of evidence would convince even the biggest skeptic?
Tough one. We're talking about something that happened decades ago. All the investigations, all the analysis, and still no smoking gun. Some folks are sure there's more to it, others are fine with the official story.
The Phoenix Lights are almost like a Rorschach test for how people see the world. What you see in those lights, maybe it depends on what you already believe about UFOs, government secrets, even reality itself.
That's a good point. It's something to remember when we look at other strange events, things we can't explain. Our own biases, our perspectives, they affect how we see things, how we understand the evidence.
Makes you think, doesn't it? No such a thing as a completely unbiased observer. We all come at things with our own baggage.
Definitely. And realizing that is crucial for having real productive conversations about these topics. You know, the complex ones, the ones that people get fired up about.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into the Phoenix Lights, what are the most important things for our listeners to take away from all this?
The biggest one, I think, is critical thinking. We got to be smart about the information we take in, especially with stuff like this, where there's mystery and speculation. It's easy to jump to conclusions, grab onto the most exciting explanation, but we need to be skeptical, really look at the evidence.
You're right. Can't just believe everything we hear or read. Ask questions. Challenge what we think we know. Look at all sides of the story.
And of course, it's okay to admit that not everything has a simple, perfect answer. Sometimes the mystery stays a mystery.
There's something kind of beautiful about that, isn't there? The unknown. Accepting that we don't have all the answers.
It reminds us how much we still don't know, that there's always something new to learn, something new to explore. And who knows, maybe someday new evidence will show up that solves the Phoenix Lights once and for all.
Or maybe it'll stay a puzzle forever, always sparking curiosity and debate. Either way, it reminds us to keep our eyes on the sky, keep our minds open, keep exploring the universe, all the amazing things out there, even the things we can't quite explain. It's amazing how much people get into this, huh? The Phoenix Lights, I mean. Seems like everyone's got an opinion, whether they're on the skeptical side or more, well, let's say open to other possibilities.
It's true. It really taps into that fascination we all have with the unknown, right? Makes us ask those big questions. Are we alone in the universe? What else is out there that we don't even know about?
And even if you forget about the alien stuff for a second, it's just a really captivating story from a human point of view.
Yeah.
Hundreds of people, all looking up at the same time, seeing this weird thing and trying to figure out what it is.
Yeah, it's like this shared experience, a moment of, I don't know, collective awe, maybe even a little bit of fear mixed in. And then all those different interpretations, those explanations, they actually shape how we understand the whole event.
It's like a huge social experiment, isn't it? How do we deal with these unexplainable events as a society? And how do those explanations change over time as new information comes out?
Right. It makes you think about the media, the influence of people in authority, the power of what we believe personally. You see this kind of thing everywhere, not just UFOs, but politics, social issues, even relationships.
You're right. It's about how we process information, how we decide what things mean, how we create our own stories about the world.
And those stories can be incredibly powerful. They affect how we see things, what we do, even our own sense of self.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into the Phoenix Lights, I think one of the most important things to remember is that the mystery itself might be more important than any answer we could find.
I agree. The questions it makes us ask, the debates it starts, that sense of wonder, those are the things that really stick with us.
It's a reminder to always keep asking questions, to keep exploring, to never lose that curiosity about the world, especially when it comes to the things we can't fully explain.
Well said. And for everyone listening, if this has gotten you thinking, I encourage you to do your own research. Look at different perspectives, come to your own conclusions. The Phoenix Lights, they're a fascinating case study. How we see things, what we believe, and how we try to make sense of a universe full of mysteries.